An imminent encounter with extraterrestrial life conceals within the lunar landscape, unbeknownst to these space travelers. As per official documents, mankind's last known voyage to the moon was the Apollo 17 expedition in 1972. Yet, recently unveiled footage from 2011 puts forth evidence of a covert Apollo 18 mission orchestrated by the U.S. Department of Defense. The recorded footage first portrays in-depth discussions with three astronauts, John Gray, Nathan Walker, and Ben Anderson. Their conversational tone belies the classified nature of their endeavor, organized by the Department of Defense, which they are compelled to keep even from their own kin. The mission goal is to transport a specialized device named the PSD-5, framed as a rudimentary missile detection system, which the U.S. government seeks to install on the moon, outmaneuvering the Russians. Additionally, they are tasked with procuring more lunar rock samples, a puzzling ask for Nathan given the considerable quantity of moon rocks already transported back to Earth by preceding missions. The trio then brace themselves in their spacecraft, departing Earth and casting admiring glances at the Earth from space as they gear up for their lunar landing. John will remain on board to maintain the ship in orbit, whilst Nathan and Ben descend to the lunar surface in the lander to fulfill their two-night mission. Once on the moon, they document their expedition, utilizing handheld cameras and setting up additional cameras at their landing site, next to the United States flag. They enjoy some levity before buckling down to their true objective. As they commence deployment of the PSD-5, they experience mysterious video and audio disturbances and power variations in their lander. Nathan requests an investigation from Mission Control, whilst he and Ben transport the PSD-5 well beyond the lunar rover to its designated location. They proceed to gather lunar rock samples, with Ben noting a peculiar texture to the rocks. On camera, an inexplicable movement of one rock near a crater goes unnoticed by the astronauts. As they end their day, securing their samples in a receptacle and ascending toward their lander, radio transmissions experience another wave of interference, sparking increased curiosity in Nathan about its origins. As they retire for sleep on board the lander, the silent lunar night is pierced with a terrifying cacophony of shrieks, clicks, and scrapes. When they are woken by a strange radio signal, astronauts ask Mission Control if it might be interference from the PSD-5. However, Mission Control advises that they'll need to consult the Department of Defense to confirm. As the astronauts return to slumber, the lander's onboard camera captures a moon rock mysteriously moving independently. On waking, as they get ready for their day on the lunar surface, they are told by John, their orbital colleague, that he will soon be out of radio contact as he prepares to orbit the moon's far side. While eating breakfast, Ben spots a previous day's rock sample is missing from its container and bag, sitting on the lander floor. Both astronauts are puzzled, having thoroughly secured all their collected samples. They repackage the rock and prepare to carry out their second day's mission of activating the PSD-5. En route, they lose radio contact with Mission Control. While Nathan considers it to be a brief communication glitch, radio silence persists. Upon reaching the PSD-5 location, Ben spots unfamiliar footprints. With neither Mission Control nor John responding, they decide to trail the prints. They soon realize that the print pattern seems random, hinting towards disorientation, potentially due to oxygen shortage. The trail leads them to an unknown lander identified as Russian. Moonstruck, wondering why they weren't informed of Russian cosmonauts inhabiting the moon, they approach the Russian lander, only to find the flag down and the lander in chaos. After examining the lander's basic life support systems, which are intact, Nathan stumbles upon blood-stained uniforms and first aid kits, raising his concern. Meanwhile, Ben notices footprints leading to a dim crater and chooses to explore. Inside, he finds it teeming with rocks, and the ground unexpectedly soft. As he prepares to return, he discovers the decomposed body of a Russian astronaut. He hauls the body to the surface, noticing a tear in the deceased's helmet as he does so. As he investigates the spacesuit, the cosmonaut is abruptly startled. Reinforcing their alarm, a rock is discovered inside by Ben, who dares another look. Notwithstanding their fear, dwindling oxygen levels propel them to return to the lander. Once back, Nathan contacts Mission Control querying about a potential Russian mission, given their proximity to one. Mission Control, however, reports no known Russian human expeditions to the moon post-1969, piquing Nathan's suspicion of a deliberate choice of location. Mission Control reveals this mission's supervision under the Department of Defense, promising that they would soon clarify all facts. Amidst speculations of deceit regarding the mission's actual objective, Nathan and Ben call it a night. During their slumber, severe signal distortion affects the external video camera, causing a noticeable jolt in the lander and triggering Nathan's alertness due to his helmet's dislodgement. Observing their missing lunar flag post-sleep, Ben hypothesizes about a second, presumably unstable, Russian cosmonaut being the perpetrator. However, John, recently back on their side of the moon, refutes this based on oxygen constraints for a 12-hour lunar walk. A Department of Defense official divulges to Nathan about their speculation of a Russian presence, albeit lacking solid confirmation. He also negates Ben's theory, citing intelligence indicating a lone Russian cosmonaut. This revelation breeds more confusion among the astronauts. However, their approaching return itinerary prompts deferral of further detective work to post-return. While gearing for launch, they are interrupted by a loud noise on the radio. They hasten the launch, but are rattled by an external force that topples and drags the camera to a halt, which is followed by a huge jolt that resonates throughout the lander. The equipment inside indicates severe issues. Complete loss of communication and a slow oxygen leak makes Nathan hypothesize it was a meteor strike. Upon stepping outside, he realizes that although he doesn't see any wreckage, the rover has been overturned. Next, Nathan logs an observation of potential extraterrestrial evidence. Over the radio, Ben questions him about what he's discussing. Nathan reports that he has stumbled across unfamiliar footprints on the soil, which appear to not belong to a human. He also notices the lander's side that seems clawed and detects the flag in an identical condition. In haste, Nathan flips the rover back onto its wheels and tweaks the antenna, instructing Ben to contact Mission Control or John. But Ben is unable to establish a connection, and suddenly, Nathan exclaims that something is moving. Ben confesses that he discerns nothing, while Nathan insists there's something moving inside his outfit. He then screams and behaves frantically while camera recordings show a spider-like entity in Nathan's helmet. Ben quickly steps out to assist him, finding Nathan on the ground, barely breathing with air escaping from his suit. With great effort, Ben hauls Nathan into the lander and just manages to repressurize it, saving him. Simultaneously, John and Mission Control are attempting unsuccessfully to communicate with both astronauts. Once Nathan is stable, Ben seeks to understand what transpired outside. Nathan, with a straight face, responds that he tripped, fell, and damaged his helmet. Ben is puzzled as he distinctly remembers Nathan stating something was moving in his suite, which Nathan claims not to recall. At this point, Ben realizes that Nathan is bleeding through his suite. On removing his shirt, a large wound is revealed on Nathan's stomach. Upon touch, Ben identifies a hard object deep within the wound. Neglecting the time for humor as a life hangs in balance, a foreign object is extracted using medical equipment, which turns out to be a sample of moon rock. The revelation leaves both men stunned. Nathan, filled with paranoia, smashes the rock to pieces with a hammer. Ben suggests that perhaps the PSD-5 machine isn't for detecting missiles, but possibly emits a signal that lures these creatures. Nathan concludes that there's a reason they were told to install several cameras. He suspects they and the Department of Defense were observing this entire event, with him and Ben being test subjects on a mission to explore creatures they believed were already known to the Department of Defense. They decide to dismantle the PSD-5 machine. However, on reaching the site, they discover the machine is already destroyed with alien footprints surrounding it. The two astronauts return to the lander, and while Nathan undresses, Ben notices that his wound has become infected and the infection is spreading. They can faintly pick up the transmissions from Mission Control, but they are unable to respond. Despite the reassurances from Mission Control about their return to Earth, Nathan is skeptical. He informs Ben that his infection is worsening, and taking it back to Earth would pose a significant risk. Ben is forced to accept the necessity to abandon Nathan, a decision he finds hard to accept. Following these revelations, Nathan's condition takes a turn for the worse as his mental state begins to deteriorate. He starts filming his own psychotic breakdown, then disturbingly films Ben sleeping. When one of the arachnid-like extraterrestrial beings invades their spacecraft, Nathan loses all control and destroys the cameras in a fit of rage, vowing not to let the Department of Defense watch him perish. John is in a race against time to establish contact with Ben and Nathan, as his communication range is rapidly diminishing and he faces the challenging decision of leaving them behind. As the oxygen supply dwindles, Ben concludes that their only option for survival is the oxygen and connection systems housed within the Russian spacecraft. On their journey there, Nathan grows increasingly paranoid and insists that Ben should abandon him, a proposition Ben vehemently dismisses as not befitting for an astronaut. In a shocking twist, Nathan jumps out the vehicular rover, leading to a catastrophic crash, with all the surrounding rocks morphing into alien life forms. Ben regains consciousness only to find Nathan missing. After an intensive search, Nathan is found near a crater where earlier the body of a cosmonaut was discovered. He pleads with Ben to leave him again, but Ben refutes. Nathan is abruptly dragged into the darkness, and upon flashing his light, Ben sees the transformation of all the crater rocks into alien life forms. Overwhelmed, Ben finally flees, leaving Nathan behind. Arriving at the Russian spacecraft, Ben activates all systems, which link him with the Russian agency. They connect him with the Secretary of Defense, who reveals their knowledge of the situation on the moon, including their decision to leave Ben behind due to potential infection risks. Despite his pleas of being healthy and his pleas for his family, the Secretary of Defense remains unmoved, promising to honor him as a fallen hero to his family. Resigned to his fate, Ben opts to spend his final hours listening to a recording of his son's voice. Just then, John succeeds in attempting to establish contact. John disregards the secretary's warnings, promising to return Ben to Earth. He instructs Ben on how to initiate the lander's launch. As Ben prepares for takeoff, a severely ill and delusional Nathan re-emerges and starts pounding on the lander's window. Before Nathan can shatter the glass, his helmet is overwhelmed by extraterrestrial beings, which subsequently tear him apart. Ben blasts off from the ground, ignoring a message from the Secretary of Defense, which informs John that he will be denied re-entry to Earth if he attempts to rescue Ben. John decides to disregard the message. Soon after reaching orbit, Ben discovers that the Russian lander is overrun with moon rocks, which are, in fact, alien life forms. The alien beings assault and infect Ben, causing him to lose control and crash into John's spaceship, resulting in the death of both astronauts. The official records wrongly report their deaths as training accidents. Subsequent investigations discover that an astonishing 840 lbs of moon rock, collected from Apollo missions and given as gifts to numerous international figures, have been stolen or lost. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like our channel and subscribe if you enjoy content like this. Also, let us know which movie you would love us to recap for you.